With the sad recent news of Kyrie Irving being out for the rest of the season after a torn ACL, the Dallas Mavericks playoff chances are now basically over. And with that being said, that now makes 3 teams that I had comfortably making the playoffs to start the season now that won't even make the play-in. And those 3 teams are the Phoenix Suns, the Philadelphia 76ers, and the Dallas Mavericks. And in today's episode of At the Buzzer Sports, we're going to be talking about those 3 teams and what situation is the worst, because all 3 of these situations are very different, but they're all having all-time bad seasons. And I don't think we've seen anything like this before. 3 teams who had really high playoff hopes, not even playoff hopes. I think Dallas, after going to the NBA Finals, had expectations of being back in the NBA Finals and possibly winning a championship. The Phoenix Suns have really spent $150 million on their core 3 players, and they had aspirations on winning a championship. And the Philadelphia 76ers, after trying to make one more push in signing Paul George, they were trying to win a championship. And I just don't think we've ever seen 3 teams that are really trying to win a championship. Everything that they've shown in the offseason, in the postseason, and the players that are already on the roster, they showed that they wanted to go win a championship, and all 3 of them just have been really, really bad for completely different reasons that have to do with more than just being on the court. So the first team we're going to be talking about is the Philadelphia 76ers. And this is kind of weird because they have the talent. They definitely have the talent. And last season, it looked like the Philadelphia 76ers were going to be a top 3 seed in the Eastern Conference. Before Joel Embiid went down, he was averaging about 35 points per game on almost 50, 40, 90 as a big. And we all know what happened. He went down against the Golden State Warriors and did not come back until later in the season. And I also said on TikTok myself that I don't think Joel Embiid should have come back that season. I felt as though he should have rested the entire season and geared himself up more for this season coming forward. But Philadelphia did not do that. They brought Joel Embiid back, and he looked very hobbled in the playoffs, and he was really restricted of some of the things that he usually does best in that playoff series. He still had a fairly decent series, but I truly believe if Joel Embiid was 100% healthy, they could have won that series against New York. So after losing that series in about 6 games, they go into the offseason with a lot of money in cap. I think they were about top 3 to top 5 teams with the most salary in the offseason, so they could have made plenty of moves, and they go out and go sign Paul George. But we also have to talk about, while all of this is happening, Joel Embiid, who was 100% hobbled in that playoff series against the New York Knicks, decided to go play for the Olympics team. And this is something that I thought was very, very dangerous to do, because you have a guy that just struggles to play majority of an NBA season, and now he's going out and playing for a gold medal, where you really should be worrying about having him on the floor as much as possible, especially with all the money that you gave him. And I always find it really weird. I'm not 100% sure if the Clippers pulled Kawhi out of the Olympics or if just Team USA made the decision to pull Kawhi out of the Olympics. But I feel as though the same thing should have been done for Joel Embiid, because once again, this is your franchise guy, a guy that you have constantly put pieces around, and he has just not been healthy to lead you guys to a full playoff run. And anything further of him playing outside of Philly would have been a very big risk. And it showed once the NBA season started. Out of nowhere, Joel Embiid said that he wasn't going to be playing backs-to-backs this season, which is something that I didn't really hate, because in the end of the day, Joel Embiid should care more about the playoff success that he should be wanting to have instead of the regular season success that he has been chasing for a very long time. So in the 19 games that Joel Embiid has played, he's averaged about 24, 8, and 4, shooting about 44% from the field. And it was obvious from the very second that he stepped on the floor that Joel Embiid was not 100% and he should not be playing. And all throughout this process, Joel Embiid has been saying that he is not 100% and he is leaning towards getting his surgery. And what really concerns me is that the Philadelphia 76ers ignored these signs and kept putting Joel Embiid out there on this false hope that they can make the playoffs. And even if they would have made the playoffs, they would have gotten Cleveland or Boston, and that would have been a 5-game series. On top of Joel Embiid not being 100% and just only playing 19 games this season, Paul George has also been really bad. This season, Paul George has been averaging 16 points per game on 43% from the field, and he looked good defensively in some moments early this season, but you can just tell the effort is not there. He has no desire to get to the rim at all, and he just leans on a lot of really difficult shots this season. And it just doesn't make it better that Paul George is going to be making $49 million this season and upward of $50 million for the next 3 years, and he also has a player option for $56 million in the 2027-2028 NBA season. And it also makes it even worse that about a week ago, Joel Embiid and the Sixers front office finally made the decision to pull him for the rest of the season and get that surgery that he was hoping for. And now there is a chance that this could be a medical retirement. And with all of this news breaking, there's just something in the back of my head that tells me that the Philadelphia 76ers could have handled this situation a lot better. They could have pulled him from the Olympic team. They could have sat him the entire season. They could have got the surgery over the offseason so Joel Embiid could be healthy and ready to go by next season. They laid everything on the table the second they signed Paul George to that contract, that $200 million contract, and hoping that Paul George could still be Paul George for the first 2 years of that contract. And by the last 2 years of that contract, Paul George could just be a bad contract. They were banking on the first 2 seasons of that contract to be a serious championship contending team. And now I believe that window is closed. And on top of that, they are going to be paying Joel Embiid mid $50 million and upward over the next 4 seasons. And with Joel Embiid playing all of those games and the Philadelphia 76ers not pulling the plug earlier in the season, they are now in contention of losing their draft pick to OKC if it falls out of the top 6. So once again, I feel as though this opportunity that the Philadelphia 76ers had to contend, they handled it all the wrong way. Joel Embiid should have been sat the entire season. Joel Embiid should have not touched the floor for the 2024-2025 NBA season. But instead, Joel Embiid is probably going to miss majority of the 2025-2026 NBA season, and they're probably going to be around a 9th or 10th seed by the time Joel Embiid comes back. He's going to come back in January, February. They're going to make it to the 7th seed. They're going to play Boston or they're going to play Cleveland, and they're going to lose in 5 or 6 games, and they're going to run this back until Joel inevitably retires. And that's counting if he does not retire off of medical retirement. So once again, I feel as though this was completely awful of what the Philadelphia 76ers could have done and how they could have handled this situation. But up next, we're going to be talking about the Dallas Mavericks, and it truly pains my heart to see that Kyrie Irving is going to be missing the rest of the season because he was having a fantastic season, and there was talks about him getting a Supermax contract this offseason. But things for the Dallas Mavericks just weren't the best by the time the season started. As we all know, Luka Doncic had a slump coming into the NBA season. Luka Doncic was averaging about 28 points per game, 8 rebounds and 8 assists, which is still really good, but the efficiency was not the best, and he also had a lot of defensive relapses. And I truly don't believe Luka Doncic is a bad, I would say he's still a bad defender, but I don't think he is as bad as everybody is making him to be. But if you have this bad of a defensive performance in the NBA Finals, there's now going to be a magnifying glass on every single bad defensive possession you have, and nobody's going to look at the solid things you do defensively when you have those stretches. But by the time Luka Doncic starts to figure it out, on Christmas Day against the Minnesota Timberwolves, he falls to an injury, which would be the most significant injury Luka Doncic has had in his career because he is going to end up missing a month and a half worth of basketball. But before Luka Doncic could return, Dereck Lively also went down. And on February 1st, around 11 p.m. my time, I'm trying not to say this with a smile, even though you guys know I am a Laker fan. So February 1st, Luka Doncic was traded to the Los Angeles Lakers for Anthony Davis, Max Christie, and a pick. So on top of Luka Doncic being out, Dereck Lively being out, now Dallas Mavericks fans are mourning the loss of their 25-year-old megastar franchise player in Luka Doncic. And there were some people on media, on YouTube, on TNT, on ESPN, on TikTok, saying that the Dallas Mavericks won this trade because in the end of the day, the Dallas Mavericks were still a better team on paper than the Los Angeles Lakers with Anthony Davis, with Dereck Lively once he returns, with Daniel Gafford, PJ Washington, Quentin Grimes at the time, Kyrie Irving, and Najee Marshall. And Max Christie, who also was really good in those games that he played first coming to the Dallas Mavericks. Which I could understand. The Dallas Mavericks had a lot of athleticism and a lot of size that could have beaten a lot of these teams in the Western Conference. So I did not hate the fact that you could see that the Dallas Mavericks were still a better team on paper than the Los Angeles Lakers, having given up one of the best centers in the NBA and the only real center in their rotation. And through the first half of Anthony Davis's debut, it looked fantastic. Anthony Davis had 24 points and 13 rebounds in the first half against the Houston Rockets for his Dallas Mavericks debut, but we all know Anthony Davis got a non-contact injury against the Houston Rockets in the second half, sending him out for the rest of the season. So I'm gonna try and make this sound as bad as it actually is, but I don't even think I can do that. Your main concern for Luka Doncic was obviously him being overweight, his conditioning, and his injury history, and that's the reason you traded him. And now, not even a full game into Anthony Davis's debut, he goes down for the rest of the season. And the fact that you had maybe a 7 to 10 year window to go win a title with Luka Doncic being the head of the Dallas Mavericks, you have now narrowed it down to 2 years. And the one of the 2 years is this season that we're already halfway through. And now Anthony Davis goes down, and that takes one of your seasons away completely. I was under the impression that Anthony Davis going down after this injury has already taken one season away from the 2-year window that the Dallas Mavericks already had. And now that Daniel Gafford is out for the rest of the season, and now Kyrie Irving is out for the rest of the season, I truly believe that the Dallas Mavericks championship window is completely done. Yes, you're probably going to get Anthony Davis back to start next year. You're still going to have PJ Washington, Daniel Gafford, and Derek Lively are going to come back. But now with Kyrie Irving having a torn ACL, he could possibly be out for the entirety of next season. Even if Kyrie Irving does come back by later next season, you still have a lot of roster issues that you need to address. And I'm not even talking about the roster construction. I'm talking about within the chemistry of the team. Anthony Davis and Kyrie Irving have to learn how to play together a little bit more. You have to get the chemistry between Derek Lively and Anthony Davis up more, to the point where I do not believe this team is going to be a high enough seed once to get a really favorable matchup in the Western Conference to be able to move to round 2 and round 3. I think next year, if Kyrie Irving does not play majority of the season and he comes back after halfway through the year, they're probably going to be a 7th or 8th or 6th seed in the Western Conference, and they're probably going to have to play a team like the Oklahoma City Thunder, like the Los Angeles Lakers, like the Denver Nuggets, maybe even the San Antonio Spurs if they add some more pieces in the offseason and they could really figure it out next year to be a top-tier Western Conference team. And not even to make it worse, from 2027 to 2030, the Dallas Mavericks have none of their picks. So you were already selling out completely to win a championship with this core of Kyrie Irving and Anthony Davis, and now both of them are out, and you may not have a fully healthy team until a year from now. So on top of the Dallas Mavericks being mid at best throughout this season and next season, after Kyrie Irving and Anthony Davis truly slow down, because I don't believe they're going to be the same players they are now, 2 years from now, they won't have any pick to show for it, and they won't have any playoff success post Luka Doncic. And I truly feel for the fans of Philly and of Dallas, and for two completely different reasons. You have a guy in Joel Embiid that you were riding behind for the past 7 to 8 years, believing that he is good enough to take you to the promised land, and he just has not been healthy enough to do it. And you have a guy for Dallas in Luka Doncic who is taking you to the NBA Finals and truly was one step away from hoisting up that Lombardi trophy, that Larry O'Brien trophy, and you guys just could not get it done. This season, in the offseason, you bring in Najee Marshall, Quentin Grimes, and Klay Thompson, and you really add to this team defensively and offensively with some more shooting, some more point of attack defense, and it looks like this team could be the second best team in the Western Conference. Coming into the season, you're just dealing with a lot of injuries, and you feel as though as soon as this team gets back healthy, they can be one of the most dangerous teams in the NBA. And then out of nowhere, whether you woke up to it or you were already up when it happened, your franchise player has been traded for a reason that just does not feel genuine. On top of Luka Doncic being gone, you still have a solid playoff team that could definitely win a series or two or maybe get to the Western Conference Finals, but you can't even see that team fully healthy because Anthony Davis gets hurt the first game he plays, and now Kyrie Irving may be out for a full year. And it doesn't stop there. Phoenix, I didn't forget about you. So, as we all know, the Phoenix Suns have been extremely disappointing over the past 2 seasons after being swept by the Minnesota Timberwolves, and now it just looks like Kevin Durant and Devin Booker are almost inevitably going to be traded, and this is something that I did not see coming at the moment. I definitely thought they would have been a lot better than they are currently as stands, and I honestly am not surprised that we're here, but I definitely would have predicted it. Anytime you're paying 3 of your best players $150 million, being left with minimal amount of money to really build a solid team around them, then there's going to be a lot of problems. And the fact that Phoenix really traded their 2030 or 2031 first round pick over to get 3 more draft picks from Cleveland and Minnesota to really make a better offer to send Jimmy Butler to Phoenix, and it not working out, it just really makes this team even worse. And now you're possibly going to miss the play-in, and now you're going to have to trade Kevin Durant and Devin Booker. I definitely think that this is possibly the worst situation out of the three, because in the end of the day, you have a clear route of getting your picks back and tanking and becoming a better team in the future. You have two guys on your roster who are still going to command a lot of draft capital and a lot of trade assets, so you could move them as fast as you possibly can to get the best assets back. And the Houston Rockets have already put their cards on the table, basically showing the league and everyone else that they would like to trade for one of these stars in Phoenix by getting their picks and having more leverage to get one of those star players than Devin Booker or Kevin Durant. So in all actuality, I think the Suns are in a better position than the Mavericks and 76ers. So which one of these teams are in the worst position? Is it the Dallas Mavericks or is it the Philadelphia 76ers? And I truly think it's the Dallas Mavericks. After the Dallas Mavericks traded their 25-year-old superstar in Luka Doncic, they had a 2 to 3 season window, in my opinion. I thought it was a 2-year window that they had to really win a championship, and within a month, that window is closed. You're probably not going to get Kyrie Irving until the end of next season, and Anthony Davis is already out for this season. Their championship window is closed. And to make it even worse, they have no first-round picks from 2027 to 2030. At least not their own. So ladies and gentlemen, if you guys like this type of content, please be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you guys next time. Peace.